Today, we are diving into a massive transformation story. We're talking about Chandra Asri, Indonesia's biggest petrochemical company, which is right in the middle of a huge, high-stakes pivot. And this isn't just some minor course correction. We're talking about a bet-the-company kind of move to completely redefine their future.
So, their 2024 annual report is called Unleashing Transformational Growth. And let me tell you, as we're about to see, this isn't just some catchy corporate slogan. It's a full-on survival strategy born from some pretty intense pressure that was threatening their entire business model.
So that's the big question, right? What on earth could possibly force a giant of this size to completely reinvent itself? Well, let's get into it. To really get why they made this pivot, you first have to understand the incredibly volatile world they operate in. I mean, the petrochemical industry is known for being cyclical, but this was something different, something new, and frankly, pretty scary was on the horizon.
So, what was the problem? Well, you had three major threats all closing in at once. First, global price pressure. You see, a huge expansion of petrochemical capacity, especially in China, was just flooding the market. That was crushing prices and margins for everybody. Then, you add in geopolitical conflicts driving up the cost of raw materials and more regulatory pressure, and you've got yourself a perfect storm.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote from their own report says it all. The oversupply from the global market was a direct hit to their bottom line. Their core business, the very engine of the company, was sputtering. They knew they had to do something, and they had to do something big.
So, how do you respond when your very existence is on the line? Chandra Asri's answer was a bold new strategy, a massive pivot designed to build a much more resilient company.
And you really got to pay attention to the language here. They're no longer just a petrochemical company. Their new vision is to become a solutions provider across chemicals, energy, and infrastructure. That's a fundamental shift in their identity.
So how did they boil all this down? Well, it came down to three simple but powerful words: big, long, and diversified. Big in scale, long in their planning for the future, and diversified to protect themselves from those brutal industry cycles that got them into this mess in the first place. Now, a great framework is one thing, but execution, well, that's everything. So how did they actually put this big, long, diversified strategy into practice? They decided to rebuild the entire company from the ground up on three brand new pillars.
This whole new strategy was built on three pillars. First, you've got chemicals, which is their original core business. Second is infrastructure, which they see as a financial stabilizer. And third, energy, which they're positioning as a powerful new engine for growth.
And the logic here is actually pretty brilliant. The chemicals pillar is their strength, but it's super volatile. So what they did was bolt on this infrastructure pillar. We're talking things like power plants and water treatment to generate steady, predictable cash flow. It acts like a financial shock absorber, evening out the wild highs and lows of the chemical market.
And man, they are moving incredibly fast. Just look at this timeline. In February 2023, they snapped up power and water assets. Then, the plan is for a blockbuster deal in April 2025, acquiring Shell's massive Singapore complex to create their energy pillar. And that's followed by another acquisition to beef up their chemicals business. This is not a gradual shift. It's a rapid-fire blitz.
Now, in the middle of all this financial re-engineering, Chandra Asri was also doubling down on something else: sustainability. And for them, this isn't just about checking a box or compliance. It's a core part of their competitive strategy.
And the world is definitely taking notice. MSCI upgraded their ESG rating to BBB. That puts them in the top tier of their industry globally. That's some serious external validation that what they're doing is legit and it's making an impact.
But what does a fancy rating like that actually mean on the ground? Well, take a look at these numbers. They've built over 120 kilometers of roads using asphalt that's mixed with plastic waste. They've recycled hundreds of tons of plastic, their own offices are winning green building awards, and they're investing in solar power. These are real, tangible results, not just fluff in a press release.
Okay, so the strategy is bold, the execution is fast, and the ESG cred is solid. But the big question for any transformation like this is always, did it work? So let's take a look at the bottom line.
So did this huge bet pay off? Well, on the surface, the numbers are absolutely stunning. In the first 9 months of 2024, their revenue was about $1.2 billion. A year later, after all the acquisitions, over $5 billion. That's more than a 4x increase. But to really understand what's going on, we need to look a little closer. So how in the world did their numbers jump so dramatically? Well, part of the answer lies in this key accounting detail called a bargain purchase gain. Basically, they managed to buy the Shell complex for less than what its assets were actually worth. That difference gets booked as a massive one-time profit, which gave their 2025 results a huge boost. It's an enormous paper gain, but it's important to remember it's not recurring revenue.
But beyond that one-time gain, the real story here is their overall financial health. As of late 2025, they were sitting on a liquidity pool of over $2.5 billion. That is a massive war chest. It gives them the stability and the firepower they need to integrate all their new businesses and to weather any storms that come their way.
Which brings us to our final thought. Chandra Asri faced a crisis that threatened its very existence, and it responded by completely rebuilding its foundation. They've gone big, long, and diversified. But in the notoriously brutal world of energy and chemicals, the next storm is always just over the horizon. The question now is, will these three new pillars be strong enough to hold